Okay, so I was looking around. So as you know, earlier, I was looking around for Yigit before his presentation, and I couldn't see him because he was hiding behind the curtain. And I had this panicked moment where I was like, I knew I saw him working on his slides like 10 minutes ago. Surely he's finished them by now and he's not hiding from you all because he's embarrassed. And then I went over and I looked for our next speaker, and I was like, where's our next speaker? He should be standing up already. He should be there. He's not there. Where's our next speaker? And I was like, where is our next speaker? And he gets like, no, you have to talk into the mic. And I'm like, no, where? And luckily he stood up so I could see that he was there. So hopefully you're going to be well entertained by the final speaker today. I think I promise you I don't bite, honestly, often. As long as you feed me chocolate, I'm fine.
Hello.
So please, everyone give a warm final round of applause for our deep crawl speaker.
And because I'm last, I think we should give a round of applause to the organizers for such a great event. Really. That's my first time in Istanbul. It's great. I want to thank all my Turkish friends for such a warm welcome. It's great to be here. Okay, my name is Michal. Magdziarz. I'm the CEO and the founder of DeepCrawl, and today we'll be talking about the search universe. So throughout the presentation, there are some Twitter hashtags, etc. If you find anything interesting, please tweet. So when I was asked to talk about search universe, I asked myself a question: how big actually is the search universe? So how big is the space we are operating in? And actually, there is a limit. So they say that they should start a deck with a joke, but because I'm a proper geek, I'm going to start with a number. So does anybody know what this number might represent? Okay, let's move on. So as I said, I asked myself a question: is there a limit? And actually, when you look at the URL structure, there is a limit to it, because you have two protocols, HTTP, HTTPS. There is a limit on the domain length, which is 253 characters, and there is actually a limit of the full URL, which is 2083 characters. So the space is not infinite. So then I spent some time with our in-house mathematician to try to calculate this. And this is the best, most accurate formula we could have come up with. And then I tried to calculate it in Excel. And that's what I got. So there's actually a limit in Excel or Google Sheets to the number that can be displayed or calculated in Excel. And this number, which I showed you at the beginning, is actually not the total number of URLs in the universe. This is actually a maximum number you can see in Excel. And that's the message. I tried to use Google and Google Calendar to do this, and I got this answer, infinity. So actually, I had to look for a more powerful tool, and that's where Wolfram actually showed the upper hand on Google. And you can actually calculate it in Wolfram. And that's the result. And the number is that big. Just to put this into perspective, you are probably aware of the Google number. So Google number is this is considered to be a really massive number. And that's where Google name came from the Google. And that's Google number. So this is 10 to the power of 100. So when you compare this to our search universe, it's tiny. It's like a small town in UK comparing to Istanbul. So this is the space we are operating. It's massive. But today, I want to focus on just one. Because every story has usually one character. If you were to start talking about millions of characters, or that wouldn't be interesting. So I want to focus on just one URL, and I want to tell you a story, with some reference to sci-fi movies, as you probably will notice. I want to tell you a story about a URL in search universe. And to make it more personal, I'm going to act as the URL. I'm going to star as the URL. And we have some supporting acts. We have Majestic as the backlink source, Google Search Console as traffic source, Magdziarz as log summary source, and Google Analytics as consumer source. Okay, so episode 1, that's Star Wars, you'll probably notice. So combining backlinks data with scroll data. Let's take a look. So, it's important to know your backlinks. What websites link to you, what's the authority of these links. But it's almost as important to know where those backlinks land on your website. And let's go through the first story. So I'm the page, and I'm quite popular. I attracted hundreds, thousands of backlinks. But I'm broken. So I probably was popular in the past, but now I'm broken. I cannot, despite the popularity, I cannot serve any purpose because I'm just broken. And just to make it more interesting, there's always an image of a broken man. That's Luke Skywalker, I guess. Another example. When we're talking about where your links are landing, you have to ask yourself the question how you distribute the authority that is coming to your website. Obviously, it's great to build backlinks, but it's almost as important to maximize the value from the backlinks you're already getting from all these websites and make the most of it within your site architecture. So another example. I'm a page again. I'm a popular page, thousands of backlinks, but somebody put meta nofollow tag on me. And this means that all the popularity I'm getting from other pages is not distributed to my fellow pages. It's just wasted. I would love to pass some, but I'm selfish. I'm selfish in here. I'm just not giving anything. So all my popularity is effectively wasted. Not good. Another reference. Another example. So I said it's quite important to see where your backlinks land on your page. In this case, again, I'm a page. In this case, I'm a valid page. So we didn't have the problems from the previous examples, but I'm on the level 43. The level means that somebody has to click 42 times from the homepage to reach me within the site architecture. On top of it, I have just one link out. So again, all the authority, all the popularity I've got is not being passed to my fellow pages. Not good. Another example, disallowed. So again, popular pages, but disallowed on your website. And in order to know this, you actually have to combine the backlinks data with internal crawl data. Otherwise, you won't see the full picture. Another, backlinks to duplicate pages. Again, I'm a popular page, 876 backlinks, but there's another page which is effectively a duplicate to me with 456. So we are now competing for the same audience. Makes no sense. But if you know about it, the solution is quite easy. You can just mark the other page and obviously link to me because I'm the more popular one. And now I have the combined authority from these two pages. So I'm now having 1,332 backlinks. Great. But you have to know what's going on in between your internal structure and backlinks. Okay. So now we go from episode 1 to episode 3 just to make it more interesting. So let's take a look at Google Search Console and what these data can bring to the table. Okay, we have some Star Wars references again. Okay, so simple story with the URL, driving traffic, and you can get the traffic from Google Search Console, but it's disallowed again. Again, you're combining two sources and you know that you are driving traffic to a page which for some reason has been disallowed. Another example, you can now get from Google Search Console the traffic to your mobile pages. And now, by combining these with crawl data, you can see how those mobile pages are being optimized on your website and how good they are for mobile audiences. It's important to understand when it comes to mobile, it's important to understand how your website responds to different user agents, particularly with mobile in mind. Because the mobile first indexing is kind of upcoming, I thought I would put a few slides in here just to remind you about what's happening. So there are three main ways you can optimize or design your web page to serve to mobile device. It can be responsive, can be dynamic. So responsive is the same URL, and the content is optimized for both desktop and mobile page. The dynamic is the same URL, but the content would vary depending on the device. Sorry. So dynamic would be the same URL, but when somebody comes from the mobile user agent, the content would be designed for mobile devices. And the last scenario is when you have a dedicated mobile page. Again, page designed to mobile devices, but it's on a separate URL. Worth reminding this, so after the Google mobile first indexing, if your website is not optimized for mobile device, we are very likely to be heavily affected. If you have dedicated mobile or dynamic, you are likely to be affected. And if your website is responsive, that's where you are safe. So if your website is responsive, you are kind of okay, and that's where Google would recommend these days. So it's really important to check every single page and how those pages are optimized for mobile devices. I said responsive is safe, but not always. So when you look at this example, you have a responsive page in here, and you may be thinking, I'm fine. But actually, that's very often the case that you may have some legacy mobile dedicated page. And when Google switches to mobile first indexing, that's the priority of indexing. So actually, Google will index your mobile page. So despite having responsive web page, it will index the mobile page, which very likely might be missing some content because you optimize this page. So it might be missing a lot of content from your desktop. And in this case, if you had AMP page, this would be the page that will be actually displayed in search results. So despite having responsive page, you are not prepared for mobile if your mobile page is not optimized. So it's really important to remember about it and actually check the mobile configuration for all of your pages. And the same happens with dynamically served pages, because in this case, even if you have a responsive website, because Google will come after mobile first indexing from mobile user agent, and what your website will return to this user agent will be dynamically served mobile pages. So again, if you are missing any content on dynamic mobile pages, you will be affected. So this was like a quick reminder of the mobile first, because it's finally happening. So it's worth remembering about it. And last slide on this one. So you can see that you have two versions in here, desktop and mobile, and any differences. So the mobile pages can have different site structure. So if you have some missing links, so there'll be Orphan mobile pages, or maybe some pages will be missing, or maybe the pages will be broken. That's what Google will see after the mobile first indexing. So it's really important, if you have dedicated mobile pages, to crawl it and see what's actually available for mobile devices. Great. So another example, the image search. So now from Google Search Console, you can actually see the number of visits coming to your images. So again, it's very, very important to see if these images are responding correctly, if they're not too big, broken, etc., etc. And again, combining the data, Google Search Console and crawling would give you these additional insights. Obviously, image search, massive traffic driver, so it's worth looking into it. And the last thing, traffic to Orphan pages. So it happens often, particularly when you are when you went through or are going through a migration process, when you're moving from old URL structure to new URL structure, and it happened to me quite a few times. But you leave an entire section of your website which is still functioning, but effectively it's been kind of orphaned and it's not part of the new site structure. In this case, you might not see the drop in traffic immediately, but after a while you may suffer. So it's really important to maintain the value through the migration process. And again, combining all the sources in here is really important. So you can see the visits are being redirected. So the pages with visits are redirected to the pages in the new structure. The pages with backlinks are being maintained and correctly redirected. And using the log files, you can actually see how the reindexation happens and when Google starts crawling the new URL. So it's very helpful in managing any migration project. Let me just drink juice before I go to episode 2. So you mentioned log files. So let's see what log files can bring to the table. So when you mention log files, the first thing which springs to mind is the crawl budget and how you optimize, how you utilize the crawl budget. So are you directing Google to the right pages? There are 3 scenarios that may happen in here. That you may have some non-indexable pages that attract or have a lot of Google requests, and effectively this request or this crawl budget is wasted. Or you may have some pages that are indexable and you'd like them to rank and you'd like Google to visit them and index, but they are not attracting Google bot, and there aren't any requests from Google. So you want to know about all these 2 scenarios, and again, you can know only when you combine the data, the log files, with web crawl data. That's where we can see the pages that are in one of these categories, and you can maybe identify why this happens. So maybe you have some links internally pointing to non-indexable pages, and you're leaking basically in there. Or maybe the pages you want to rank are buried within the site architecture, and maybe Google has to crawl 5, 10, 20 levels to reach them. And where you want to be is in the middle, obviously. So have the indexable pages that are attracting the Google requests, get to the index, get impressions, and ultimately the traffic at the end. So the crawl waste. So these are the examples where you actually attracting some Google requests to pages that are non-indexable, broken, or in this case, canonicalized. And what you want to see is Google actually visiting the pages which are valuable, the pages that you want to rank for, or the pages that are introducing the other pages, like categories. Maybe you have new products that you would like Google to discover as quickly as possible. So you don't want Google to waste time on pages that are not valuable. You want them to crawl categories, discover new pages, discover new products, and ultimately get them to index as quickly as possible. Okay, let's look at some fun example now. So this is the page with dresses. But it happened that you may have other pages which are effectively serving the dresses, but maybe with different colors. The last example is different color with and some price range. And actually, there might be like infinite number of pages that would serve dresses with different colors or price ranges. Obviously, you can discover all of these other variations of dresses using the web crawl, or they might be coming from backlinks. So if you see a case like this, obviously you want to meta-canonicalize them to the main page about dresses. But you may as well discover that these pages might be still crawled by Googlebot, and you want to know why. Maybe, again, you are leaking somewhere within the site architecture, and you are linking to the pages that are non-indexable, and it's a waste. But maybe some of them actually are driving traffic, which gives you a hint that maybe some of these colors are being searched, and maybe you want to actually make them indexable and don't canonicalize them to the main ones. So maybe people are actually searching for green dresses, blue dresses, or red dresses, and it was incorrectly meta-canonicalized, and Google is ignoring it because it finds the pages valuable. But again, to see all of this, you need the data from all the sources in one place to really be able to make the decisions. So we talked about Google and how Google sees our pages and what's useful to, make the pages indexable or how to improve your site architecture. We talked about Google a lot, but we should not forget about the consumer. Because ultimately, Google drives the awareness, but people drive the ROI. So if you are e-commerce website, it's actually the user that would pay the money and let you run your business. So it's important to look at the places and the pages where the actual conversions are happening. It's not only about the visits, it's about the conversions. So coming back to the single URL story, we have a page with thousands of visits, but actually it's going to a page that doesn't have any products. So you cannot convert. So these visits are wasted, even if it ranks. No use. You might be driving traffic to something like blog posts with no conversion points in there. So again, you're driving a lot of visits, but effectively not converting. So think about your users as well. And that's where something like Google Analytics data can be very helpful. Okay, let's look at some more advanced story about URL. And it's another story that actually, I've been in SEO for 12 years now, so all these stories actually happened to me at some point in my life. So let's look at the more complicated one. So there's a page driving decent amount of visits, but when you check in Google, it's not indexed. You look at the backlinks, no backlinks. And then you discover that there's actually another page with thousands of backlinks that redirects to the original page. So that would describe the visits. But why it's now indexed? No index. So now you look at, and the page in the middle, the redirect page, actually is disallowed, which effectively stops Google from following the redirection. So Google never makes it to this page. So the traffic flows through the 301 redirection, but the page is not indexed because it stopped in the middle. And this happened to me on one of my migration projects. And it's quite hard to detect things like this. So The reason I show this example is, we're still talking about one URL. It's quite complicated. Just to understand this situation, it's quite complicated. You have this page redirecting in here, this is disallowed, this is backlinks. It's hard to understand it, even for one URL. And this represents one URL now. That's me. Now, think about your website and how many pages you have got on your website, and how many might be experiencing some of these problems. We've just gone through it. Is it a small website with 5, 7, 10, 20, or maybe it's hundreds or thousands? And they might be hidden within thousands of other good pages. So how you distinguish the goodies from the baddies? How you see all these individual cases are somewhere in there. For bigger websites, it can be millions. And among them, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands that are suffering from some problems, which sometimes are very easy to resolve once you know about them. And think about the number which I showed you at the beginning. This is the space we are operating in. And all these pages are hidden somewhere in there. So obviously, you can do it manually. You can merge few Excel spreadsheets like this. But you definitely want to avoid what we call the Excel hell. You want to spend. You should value your time and spend your valuable time on something that is unique, and automate whatever you can. So automation is very, very much needed in here to allow you to do your job more efficiently and not wasting time on Excel hell. And that's a few slides about scaling up. It's easy to, it's still fine to do this for 1,000 URLs manually, or when you're reaching the amounts of 100,000 plus or million plus. You need good tools to handle this amount of data. So that's your search universe. Think about your website. You are probably somewhere in there. Your pages, your websites are there. And think how to explore this data, how to know what's going on in there to get the best insights and do your job as well as you can. So this brings me to the final slide on the ultimate search universe and the importance of seeing all of this in one place. Because that's how you really can know what's happening in there. And you can think about it from your technical, site architecture aspects of your website, from Google indexation point of view, from the traffic you drive, from the authority you have somewhere in there, from other websites in the search universe, and how they link to you, and finally the user. So how these websites, these pages, these visits that are coming to your website, how they are utilized. Are you driving the visits to the best pages? Have you got the best pages indexed? And are you driving the most visits and conversions from it? So that's DeepCrow, and we are here to help you effectively do your job the best as you can. Before I say thank you to Istanbul, I have one more thing. There should be air flying in. let me see. Oh, here we go. So that's Turkey. I just want to say a few words about this market and how important it is for us. It's actually the fifth market for us in the whole world, and we can see huge potential in here. And we want to grow with this market, of kind of helping each other. So if you have any ideas on writing and maybe you need some data from us, we are very happy to provide it. And I want to mention Ilias as well, who's been a really great friend to the tool and friend of mine. And he's one of our longest customer advisory board, and actually helped a lot in providing the right feedback to the tool to help us improve it. And he is in here in Turkey, so if you want to take advantage of it, you're more than welcome. He's a great guy and great supporter of DeepCrow. That's it. Thank you.